All right, everyone, buckle up. Because today we are diving deep into a story that just keeps on giving the potential TikTok ban here in the US.
Yeah, it's everywhere, right?
It really is. I mean, you guys wanted to know more about this, and trust me when I say it is a wild ride.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about presidential flip-flops, congressional showdowns, and a Supreme Court decision that could go either way.
Pretty much.
All this over an app that most people know for dance trends.
It is kind of crazy when you think about it that way, but it really is so much bigger than just one app.
Oh, absolutely.
What we're really looking at here is how we're going to balance national security with individual freedoms in this digital age that we live in, especially
Right,
when you've got
it's
foreign companies that are becoming more and more influential.
exactly. And in this case, you've got ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, going head-to-head with U.S. lawmakers.
Right.
They're worried about keeping user data safe and the possibility of the Chinese government getting their hands on that information.
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about that for sure.
And to make things even more interesting, both President Biden and former President Trump have, well, let's just say their opinions on this whole thing have been anything but consistent.
Yeah, their back and forth has definitely added to the whole drama of the situation.
Right.
If we want to really understand where things stand today, we've got to rewind a bit.
Okay, let's do it.
Do you remember that law Congress passed last year?
Vaguely.
It had bipartisan support too, and it basically gave ByteDance an ultimatum. They could either find a U.S. buyer for TikTok that was approved or face getting banned.
Right. And just to clarify, we're not talking about stopping people from using TikTok directly, are we?
No, not really.
It's more about kind of cutting it off at the source.
Exactly. This law is all about app stores like Apple and Google. It
Uh-huh.
would force them to take TikTok down and prevent any updates.
So even if people could still technically use the app, it wouldn't be for long.
Right. Without updates, it would be obsolete pretty quickly, basically unusable.
So unusable.
Basically.
Okay, so let's talk about Trump now. He first tried to ban TikTok back in his first term,
Yeah.
but then during his campaign, he promised to protect it.
Uh-huh.
And in the end, he tried to use the Supreme Court to delay the ban.
He did.
What do you make of all that back and forth?
It's definitely a bit of a head scratcher. Some experts think Trump's initial stance against TikTok was because it was being used to amplify youth activism that was critical of his rallies.
That's interesting.
But his later change of heart could be because the app was becoming a major economic force.
That makes sense. And then there's that time when Trump invited TikTok CEO Shou Chew
Yeah.
to his inauguration.
Yeah.
He even gave him a really good seat.
I remember that.
It's pretty hard to square those actions with his position on banning the app.
It is.
And now we've got Biden. He signed the bill into law.
He did.
But his administration is also looking for ways to keep TikTok running if the ban actually happens.
Interesting, right?
Both administrations say they're doing this for national security reasons.
They do.
But their approaches have been pretty different.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a real political tug of war.
Yeah.
And then you've got TikTok and ByteDance caught in the middle,
Right in the thick of it.
denying any ties to the Chinese government and refusing to sell.
Yep.
To really grasp what's at stake here, imagine the Chinese government having access to not just your silly dance videos,
Oh, no.
but also your location data, your private messages, even your browsing history.
That's a scary thought.
Right.
That data could be used for all sorts of things. Targeted propaganda manipulation of the economy, even blackmail.
It's a serious concern for sure.
Definitely a legitimate concern.
But isn't that the case with all social media platforms? Why is TikTok getting singled out?
That is a great question. And while it's true that data privacy concerns exist across all social media platforms, TikTok's ownership by a Chinese company raises different issues,
Okay,
especially when you consider the Chinese government's track record with censorship and surveillance.
that makes sense. So where do things stand right now?
Well, the Supreme Court heard arguments last week,
I
and
hear-
we're expecting their decision any day now.
Oh. They're really grappling with this question of whether the ban violates ByteDance's First Amendment rights
Right.
and whether the president overstepped his authority.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they decide, it's going to have a huge impact on how tech is regulated in the future.
So we've got this potential ban hanging over our heads, political maneuvering left and right, and TikTok fighting to stay alive.
It's a lot.
What does all of this mean for the everyday TikTok users out there?
That's the big question, isn't it? While the politicians are debating, millions of Americans are wondering what's going to happen to their creative outlet, the businesses they've built on TikTok, and their personal data.
It's a lot of uncertainty.
Imagine you're a teenager who spent years building a massive following on TikTok,
Right.
and suddenly your entire platform could disappear.
Oof.
That's got to be incredibly stressful.
Absolutely. It's more than just an app for a lot of people. It's a big part of their lives and how they make a living.
You got it.
Mm.
This whole situation really forces us to ask a crucial question.
How do we find the right balance between national security and individual freedoms in a world that's becoming more and more digital?
Yeah.
Will other social media platforms end up facing this same kind of scrutiny down the line?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something we should all be thinking about as we navigate this constantly changing digital landscape.
It is.
Think about your own social media use. Do you trust these platforms with your data?
Yeah.
Where do you personally draw the line between convenience and privacy?
It's something to consider.
This whole TikTok situation, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it really is.
There's so much more to come.
Definitely.